Okay, looks like we are live. Hello and welcome. My name is John Kelley. I am one of the co-founders of Craftpeak and current CEO. And today we're going to be going through a presentation of e-commerce and DTC sales for a post-COVID world. So as people are joining here, we'll give everybody just a couple of minutes if they're switching from another presentation. So I'll go ahead and knock out a quick introduction of Craftpeak that will give me the opportunity to introduce Craftpeak for those of you who don't know who we are, and also allow a little time for everybody to join here. So, guys, just to give you a quick overview of who we are. So we are a technology company based out of Asheville, North Carolina. We work with about 180 different breweries across the U.S., a few in the U.K. and some in Australia. And really what we do is we partner with great beverage companies and we help them think through their online presence and the direct-to-consumer experiences that they're trying to create. So we work in partnership with our breweries and we bring kind of our technology, our people, our strategy, and the strategic relationships that we've developed in the industry to accomplish those goals. And today, what we'll be talking about is some of those direct consumer strategies specifically, and we'll just kind of jump right into it here. Let's see, make sure I've got my slides. Okay, so if we're going to talk about moving forward into 2021 and what the direct consumer opportunities are for us, I think it makes sense to do a quick recap of 2020. So I'll try to make this fairly quick. My goal is to have this done in 5 minutes, but there was a lot of things a lot of shifting ground, a lot of interesting things that happened in 2020. So let's do a quick review here. So first of all, absolutely, Amazon and other e-commerce solutions just our services absolutely crushed it. So Amazon had huge profits last year. 84% increase with $386 billion in total revenue. For any of you out there that think that that's an anomaly, well, let's look back a few years for Amazon, and you can see that they've really been on this trajectory. Now, last year was an exceptional year, but $100 billion increase, and I think really kind of the amazing thing is that they're 84% increase in profit. So sitting on a bunch of cash. And, if you're really starting to look at kind of what are the macroeconomic effects that are impacting our businesses in the craft beer industry or the craft beverage industry, I think it's helpful to kind of look at the macroeconomics of what's going on around us. And I think, when you see companies like Amazon, calling their shot, saying that they're ordering 100,000 electric vans that are going to be on the road by 2030, 10,000 of those are going to be on the road by the end of next year. And they are already doing 50% of their own deliveries. I think that's a pretty good indicator of where they think e-commerce is going, and also the consumer demand that's associated with it. Nielsen made a presentation to the Brewers Association it was probably back in January of this year, January, February, and just some fascinating statistics. For the first time ever in their data, they're showing that the food and beverage segment was 44% of all dollars spent online. And for the very first time, that replaced health and beauty. So health and beauty is at 38%. And chances are, based on the way that we see trends going, that's not going to flip flop. That's probably here to stay. And I think that's important for us all to be aware of. From there, if we take a look at the wine industry and we say, okay, well, that's what Amazon did. We've seen some Nielsen data from the industry, but let's take a look at wine. Well, this is from our friends at Sovos Ship Compliant. They do an annual wine report for direct consumer shipping, and this year's report, showing that sales basically went from $3.2 billion in 2019 to $3.7 billion in 2021. So huge, massive increase there, $500 million. And really kind of cool what we're seeing there was the shift in segments I think there was about a 2% growth in the bottles of wine that were under $30 in 2019. Well, in 2020, you see that there's a 41% increase in those. So, where you had maybe the $100 bottles of wine that were really the ones that were kind of flying off the shelves and responsible for a lot of that revenue historically, what you're seeing now is that really that direct-to-consumer shipping segment is getting down into those more affordable more affordable lines of wine. And I think there's a lot of overlap there with craft. All right, so from there, back to some other Nielsen data, where, basically before 2019, they were saying less than 1% of all beer was kind of sold online. So if we figured, we're about a $28, $29 billion industry in craft, they're showing that last year, online segment was about $97 million in beer, which is about a 330% growth over year over year from where it was, and represents about $12.6 in share. And then, some other interesting consumer behavior that is really proliferating is, these online retail brands that are subscription services. So I think we're all aware of them, but Casper is an example of, bedding and mattresses, Stitch Fix, Trunk Club, Dollar Shave Club, Blue Apron, Graze, Peloton, Whoop, Strava. All of these now, if you do a Google search right now, and I did it this morning for top subscription boxes, there are some, there's hundreds of ads and blogs out there that are talking about the top programs. And some of these blogs are mentioning the top 200 subscription boxes. So huge amount of proliferation as consumers are demonstrating that they're looking for more products kind of delivered to their door in a consistent way. That's going to tie into some of the opportunities that we're going to talk about that are available to craft beverage producers here moving forward. But then I think it's also helpful to see all of the money that has gone into. So, when you really start looking at market forces and you start looking where money is coming from and where that investment is being made, and, the people that are sitting on boards making these decisions, well, Uber Eats, Grubhub, Amazon Fresh, Postmates, Instacart, DoorDash, most of these groups had huge investments last year, explosive growth. I think, delivery of groceries is up about 160%. A couple of these groups went through $400 million raises. Some were preparing for IPOs. And then, of course, we know that in February 2021, Uber is kind of set up to acquire Drizzly in our industry for about $1.1 billion. So there is serious money behind this segment, serious money behind e-commerce, serious money behind direct consumer. And, a lot of this money is pointing to all of the same things, that these are growing trends, both on the consumer demand side, but also on the direct consumer side between producers and those customers. So it's about 300. Drizzly in a Brewbound article was cited to have about 350% year over year growth, 200% increase in customer growth, 100% or 170% in new retailers. And they basically tripled the alcohol e-commerce household penetration from 1% to 4% in 1 year. I think somebody described it, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, but they said there was about 5 years of growth that happened in 7 months. And, based on what we're seeing across all of the breweries that we work with and the stores that they had last year, I would say that is pretty accurate. And if we look in the, if we look to the spirit segment, and I think this quote really kind of captures it well. This is from Deborah Crew, who's president of Diageo North America. But only 1 in 3 consumers even knew we could buy spirits through e-commerce before COVID. Contrast that with 1 week during the peak of quarantine, when 1 in 3 spirits were bought via e-commerce. So just really phenomenal. Some of the titanic shifts that we were seeing in the market last year. And these are all very pertinent to some of the strategies we're looking at. So part of that is that, last year, ECOS put out a white paper. And in that, I think they sent out a survey to about 1,500 breweries, and 56% of them were already doing some sort of e-commerce. So, this is something that is affecting a higher and higher percentage of the businesses in our industry. All right, so if we really think about what's happening here, I don't do any of the design for our company. This is me putting together a presentation, so forgive me, but I was trying to find an analogy that kind of represents what's going on here, because you've got global e-commerce that's just exploding and continues to grow at this rate. Now, once again, this is not something that started with COVID. This is something that accelerated through COVID. And you're talking about a $4 trillion industry that represents kind of global retail that's happening through e-commerce. On top of that, or well, kind of under that, this next wave is now food and beverage is the biggest segment. So that's another growing wave. And of course, craft is within that segment. And then you've got craft beer. Now, if I was going to do this appropriately, I would show additional waves that are kind of colliding together. And that's kind of consumer demand for more access to products online and being able to have those products arrive on our doorstep. So more convenient access, and we're willing to pay for that access. And then the other waves that are happening here are the legislative changes that are allowing more direct consumer access. So really, there's a lot of different things that are happening that are very dynamic in the industry right now. And, if it felt like a whirlwind to you last year, I hope this helps explain maybe some of the reasons why behind it. So what are some of the lessons from COVID? Well, I think that I was introduced to this cartoon from the Ecos team, and I thought, man, it keeps coming back to me as one of my favorite cartoons from last year. But there's so many probably boardrooms, and of course this boardroom doesn't look like most of the brews we work with. But if you can imagine this with a bunch of stainless steel tanks around them having this discussion, digital transformation is years away. I don't see our company having to change anytime soon. Well, here comes COVID. So once again, a lot of these were trends that were already in the making. They were already moving in that direction. Beer in this segment, craft beer, was kind of behind the ball a little bit in terms of e-commerce. So, COVID definitely did accelerate that across all markets, but I think in particular, we had a lot of ground to make up in craft beer, and I think we're gaining ground quick. But the trends here are continuation of the global boom in e-commerce. There's an acceleration in the shift to more of consumer demand online. There's increased consumer expectations around access, convenience, and safety. There's a lot of legislative changes that are supporting more DTC, and some that are also maybe restricting that a little bit, but we'll talk about those as well. Additionally, we're starting to see the blurring of lines between product segments. So, we've got seltzers, we've got ciders, we've got spirits, we've got ready-to-drink cocktails that might be malt-based, that might be wine-based, that might be spirits-based, and they're all treated differently. So, we're starting to see more craft producers bring on more lines. I had one of our customers say, "Hey, John, if it's not on the shelves right now, it's probably in the tanks getting tested." And that was kind of their response to, a conversation we were having about kind of the exploding number of product lines that are kind of coming out from craft producers. So it's definitely a blurring of the line, which is creating some opportunity and complexity. And then breweries are seeking more resilience and new ways to connect with customers. I think to a certain extent, there was I think many of our customers that were very taproom centric never kind of predicted an opportunity or a situation where the tap rooms would be closed for any significant period. And if you were very tap room dependent, you were making high margins in your tap room, you didn't have an additional channel or revenue stream, those could be, very difficult. So now moving forward, how do we prepare ourselves? How do we make ourselves more resilient? How do we make our businesses more durable? And how do we take advantages of some of the direct consumer opportunities that allow us to do that? Okay. So that's kind of the recap. I think what I would like to do is, and I don't think that was 5 minutes, guys, that was over, but for anybody keeping track out there, not the first time I've run over. So if any of you know me are not surprised at all, but so let's talk about direct consumer and e-commerce. So first of all, direct consumer is a subset of e-commerce. So when we're talking about direct consumer online, those are the properties that you as a producer control. So this is you leveraging technology to have that direct relationship with your customers, where you can control the experience. You get to maintain those high profit margins as if you were selling it out of your own tanks directly to your customers standing in your tap rooms. You have the ability to differentiate your brand, not only by product now, but also the experience that you're creating. So just like our breweries are world-class at kind of creating those in-person experiences, well, what we do is really work with them to extract that same experience online. And that's a huge differentiator. And the brands that embrace that are the ones that are gaining market share and are able to connect with new customers in new ways. It's also a diversified revenue stream. So it's not just taproom dependent anymore. Now you've got an online store that's open 24/7, and I don't have to be geographically in the vicinity of your tap room with the hours open in order to kind of participate with your brand. So it's a way to expand your market as well. Okay, so most of our focus here, certainly e-commerce is the big topic. I think a lot of these terms get thrown around and interchanged, but really it's the direct-to-consumer experience that we spend most of our time dealing with. Not to say that selling your beer on a marketplace and other places isn't a viable option. We just look to help breweries and beverage companies that are looking to kind of advance their direct-to-consumer options. That's where we typically step in and can provide the most help. Okay, so from there, this is another attempt at an analogy here, or an illustration of an analogy. But I think oftentimes as we're talking to beverage companies, it's like there's a lot to figure out. You just got good at running, in many cases, you just got good at running your business one way, then COVID strikes, and now you've got to figure out all these other things. Well, I think there's a tendency to think about your online sales as one thing, when really I want you to think about it more like a golf bag that has a bunch of different clubs in it. And the idea there is that you use a different club for every situation. Now, they're all part of the gear that you take to the course. They're all in the bag. They all have a purpose. But if you're going to hit off the tee, you're going to use a driver. If you're trapped in a sand trap, you're going to use a sand wedge. If you're on the green, you should be using a putter. Well, that's also kind of what represents the direct consumer opportunity for breweries. You've got kind of those everyday direct consumer sales that are replacing taproom revenue, or maybe supplementing taproom revenue that looks very similar to how people kind of buy from you for the taproom. Direct to consumer shipping is kind of a nuance of that. You can have shipping as one of the fulfillment methods for your everyday direct to consumer. It can be, curbside pickup, delivery, or shipping. But if you're going to go, across state lines, there's other considerations that come into play. And, there's typically relationships and things that we will have to establish and set up to keep you in full compliance there. So we've kind of broken that out separately, and we'll touch on that just a bit. Our friends at Sova Ship Compliant are the real experts here. So we've partnered with them in terms of compliance, and we'll also be doing a kind of a full presentation around compliance. And I think Alex Koval, who's lead counsel with Sovos, is presenting at this conference. So if you guys have the opportunity, go check out that presentation as well. And then we kind of also get into specialty direct consumer stuff. So membership and bottle societies are a great direct consumer channel, and we'll kind of go into some detail there. Beer sales and pre-releases. So those are opportunities. And then subscription programs. We get a lot of questions from folks that are interested in subscription programs and setting those up and thinking through the way to package these things and the additional benefits. And we'll touch on all of those things, but this is kind of the realm that we typically help a lot of folks with. So let's jump in. We'll start with the everyday direct consumer sales. So what is the upside? Well, the upside is that you're able to provide and now in particular, kind of safe alternatives to the customer. So before, where I had to go into the tap room, COVID has restrictions, so we can't do that. So online ordering is a safe alternative, but it allows me to have fulfillment methods that are curbside pickup, delivery, and shipping. It allows you to connect with customers. So either existing customers in new ways, this is a new way of interacting with some of your existing customers, and it allows you to attract customers that are looking for that convenience. I can tell you, we're based out of Asheville, North Carolina, and very quickly, my wife and I had changes to our buying behavior based on the availability and access to beers when, kind of starting March of last year. And, even though we love all of our breweries here, we found that we started spending more dollars with the folks that were making it easier for us to gain access to, whether they're delivering it and dropping it off on the doorstep, or we could order directly and they had an easy, safe, convenient way for us to pick up. So it's accessible, it's convenient, it's repeatable. It's also diversified, durable, profitable. You think about, once again, this is a revenue stream that is not dependent on your tap room being open, or at least to the full extent. And it, when tap rooms reopen as they are, and I'm very encouraged by some of the numbers that we're seeing from some of our breweries. They're having, the last 3 weekends in a row have been record-setting weekends for them. So, we've got a lot of pent-up demand in the country right now and in the world. So I think this is going to continue, but it also means that there's the opportunity to kind of continue your online direct consumer channel. And those are two revenue streams, and one is not dependent on the hours, the location, and any restrictions related to COVID. So it also allows you to kind of expand around or beyond your current geography. So some of the things that you want to consider as we're talking about some of these direct consumer sales opportunities is that, when you're talking about those everyday sales, it's really, I would say that last year, a number of point of sale systems that you all are probably really familiar with, the Squares, the Toasts, the Upserves, the Arrives. Lots of folks ended up launching e-commerce capabilities. I mean, to their credit, that allowed breweries to adapt very quickly, that allowed to get them some sort of e-commerce capabilities up and going and revenue coming back in. So it's because that point of sale system is part of the equation that, that can be a plus or a minus. Like, Arrived is doing a tremendous job, and there's probably a number of you that are using Arrived out there. But there's others that have challenges. And, just because you have an online store doesn't mean that online store was built around the demands of selling beer. So I think that, if you're, there's a number of systems out there that, are specialized for food and hospitality, but not necessarily beer. So what it can be is a challenge as you try to use a tool like that. You run into issues where maybe you can't limit the number of products. Maybe it doesn't have good online shipping options. Maybe you can't plug in your UPS account that's specific for alcohol. All of those things are potential challenges. So what we try to do is where we can leverage our e-commerce technology so that it speaks with your point of sale system, because the biggest challenge is really having inventory control between those two systems. So you need an online platform that allows you to sell beer and your products the way that you want, but it needs to communicate with your point of sale system so that it's not a tremendous pain for inventory management. So those are some of the restrictions. And then, of course, the other considerations are, this is a new way of selling beer. This is something that the staff has to get used to, and they have, many have adapted very rapidly over the last year. But it's new workflows, new positions, new things to get used to. And and of course, if you're talking about delivery and shipping, those both have some constraints based on the state that you're in. And we'll talk about those just a little bit. So when it comes to fulfillment of the day-to-day pickup, or the day-to-day direct consumer sales, curbside pickup, typically the options there, or you can have an advance where you can schedule in advance or have certain windows or scheduled times that you can pick up. On the local delivery side, that's typically done either by a staff member that's been converted to a delivery driver, where you're taking on that responsibility as a brewery, or you're plugging into like a third-party delivery system or last mile delivery, so Uber Eats, Postmates, et cetera. And then on the shipping side, it really, there's so much gray area in the shipping, and we spend a lot of time working with folks to demystify what's going on in shipping and help share options and the right strategy, technology, and partners to do this. But we'll kind of go into that. But the important things with shipping are, if you're interested in full compliance, or if you're willing to operate in some of the gray zones, packaging and shipping solutions are kind of the next thing after you establish your carrier agreements. And then you've got other compliance considerations like reporting sales tax, CAVL limits, which are per person volume limits in those states that do allow direct consumer shipping, and then, Department of Revenue reporting. So, and I think that most people are probably aware, and this has been a topic of conversation that's coming up more and more with the Brewers Association and other local guilds. But there's about 9 states that allow full direct-to-consumer licensing for breweries looking to ship into those states. There's about 4 additional that have some constraints based on the state that it's coming from. So there might be some reciprocity. For instance, Oregon will allow you to participate in a direct-to-consumer retail relationship if you are originating from a state that also does that. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I'm always going to defer to Soho Ship Compliant for these regulations, but we'll be doing a presentation May 5th with those folks specifically around these topics. We get a lot of these questions, and basically I'll be interviewing the lead counsel there. with some of the questions that we get over and over again as we're helping breweries and beverage companies kind of navigate these waters. So, there's the complexity can be a little bit intimidating, but I can promise you we've worked with dozens of breweries to help them get on the right track here and figure out the right strategy, kind of crawl, walk, run to get into the various states with the products that they'd like to. Okay, so that's kind of the everyday direct to consumer. Now we're going to start talking about some of the specialty things that we see brands do really well that create a lot of engagement and brand loyalty. And those are things like online beer releases and pre-sales. And of course, the fulfillment mechanism for any of these could also be someone that we've just covered here. So really, this is the mode and the programs that you're setting up. But when it comes to fulfilling these orders, it's either a proxy coming to pick it up, a shipping relationship where somebody on staff is packing up a box and putting a label on it, or delivery and pickup are also options. So online beer releases and pre-sales are other things to consider. Membership and bottle clubs, we're starting to see much more demand there. And in the wine world this year, my understanding is even though they've been doing it successfully for 15 years, there was a lot more demand for membership programs this year. And then also subscription services, and we'll show you some examples of what our breweries are doing in the field with those services. But certainly a growing consumer demand. Okay, so on the online beer releases and pre-sales, so these are super hype events, can be a lot of fun. For us, it can be terrifying also because you've got, thousands and thousands of people that are trying to get their hands on these typically very small release beers, or certainly the demand always outpaces the supply. So, these things can go fast and, they can be lots of fun. And it's a great opportunity to sell a lot of beer, and people are kind of giving out a lot of high fives, when they're able to kind of get their hands on it. Now, these can be extremely high traffic events. So there's specialty technology that's required to make sure that, you don't crash your site and that it's an enjoyable experience. And, this is this is cutting edge. We see lots of bots. We see lots of automated scripts. We see lots of people trying to game the system. So it's always a battle to try to make sure that we can try to create the best experiences possible. So things like virtual waiting rooms and cart protections are things that we've developed that allow us to kind of have those experiences. Really, it's about giving humans that are fans of the brand more democratic access to those beers. And it's a great engineering challenge, and it's a lot of fun to participate in these things. So it's also we have a lot of breweries that kind of get their customers on a weekly cadence or a bi-weekly cadence where they're going to release beers on a Friday, and everybody knows. So it's a hyped event. They sell out a bunch of beers, and then they repeat again the next Friday. So now the considerations here that these can go from great to not so great experiences quickly if something goes wrong. But it's a great way to kind of continue to fan the flames of that loyalty and that hype. Does require some of that special technology that we talked about to deal with crashes, oversells, and cart protection. On the membership club and bottle society side, like this is, these programs have had us excited for years. When we first started working in the industry, we said, man, why don't breweries do these more? We were looking at the wine world. We're looking at the wine world selling, $3.2 billion of wine direct to consumer. And a lot of those are sold through membership clubs. And we think that, membership clubs got a bad rap, but really what a membership club is the ability to recognize and reward your biggest supporters. They want a deeper connection to your brand, and it's a way of giving them that connection. And I'm always surprised in the businesses that I've had the opportunity to build and work with others to do it, just the small amount of passionate supporters that it really takes to drive your business. And all of you sitting out there probably recognize, as I mentioned, that, a couple people in your mind that you're like, man, those are the folks that make us. Those are the folks that bring others. Those are the folks that get other people excited. Those are our brand ambassadors. Well, membership programs are just a great way to be able to kind of support and cultivate that relationship with your passionate supporters. So the other advantage here is that membership dues typically are programs you're paying for a yearly kind of annual membership. And that's usually done up front. So, your annual dues are things that is cash flow now available to support the experience in the program. So you can staff up, you can make sure that you're allocating funds and budget to making it a world-class experience. And the other great thing is that your members will buy a ton from you. They far exceed, in our data, they far exceed any normal consumers, because they're that tied to the brand. So the increased average order value means that they spend more. And you're going to give them first right of refusal to special beers being released, or maybe barrel programs where there's limited availability or unique experiences. But all of those things are things that really drive loyalty. So and you'll see here a couple of examples: Migration Brewing and Two Tribes from the UK. Two Tribes, as part of their membership program and subscription box, what they were doing is sending out like 2 6-packs of beer. They're sending out a record. They're sending out a recipe for dinner. They're sending out all of the ingredients that you would need, and some hot sauce and a T-shirt. And people, went crazy for this. So, we'll get to this later, but don't be creative, have fun with it, and people are really responding to this. So, it can be a little bit intimidating. There's no free lunches. You got to put work into it to develop a great program. And at times, when you've got a membership, part of the consideration is, okay, are we going to allow our members to store beer with us? How long? Do we have room for that? Those are all things that we would work with you to design the right program, and lots of fun for us to kind of dream up what a great program and a rewarding program looks like for your supporters. Okay, subscription services. These are really starting to take off. So in the UK, we've done direct to consumer shipping for many years. There's fewer restrictions, not really a 3-tiered system over there. And people have been in the mode of buying beer online and having it delivered through the Royal Mail for years. So, but there's lots of cool things you can do here. It's a growing consumer trend, as we've talked about in all other segments. It's from a business perspective, I absolutely love it, because it's all about recurring revenue. Like, if you've got people signed up for a subscription, well, what you're able to do is really start to then be able to plan effectively for the revenue that's coming next month and then beyond. Because as you grow your base of subscribers, you now have an idea of the revenue that is going to be projected in those months, as opposed to trying to guess like how many people are going to come through the tap room or how many people are going to buy your stuff at a grocery store. So it is such a great way to be more strategic in your business, to make sure that you've got people attached to the business, and it's your opportunity to make sure that you continue to inspire your folks. So, and when you do that, you're creating a differentiated experience. As you are willing to take this on and other brands aren't, well, guess what? You're going to be grabbing the consumers that could go their way, because you're taking on the responsibility and opportunity to provide these programs. So ways that we do it, we've developed specific technology that allow you to kind of build your own case, build your own 6-pack. When you do that, you can sign up for a monthly subscription for it. So it's delivered on your doorstep once a month. You could set it up for every couple of weeks. Some breweries that are just like, we're not sure about how much individual inventory we're going to have for people to pick, but what we would love to do is have our brewers put together curated boxes. So we could send out a lager box or an IPA box, and people love that because they trust the brewery. They know they're going to get good beer, and they're always a little bit surprised on what they're going to get. And then it's also a great opportunity for upsells and cross sells, where we're seeing a lot of different like merch opportunities and bundled products, and even breweries teaming up with other local craft businesses. So maybe it's a local CSA, and you're teaming up with them. We've got other folks that are selling meats and different sausages. We've got people that are teaming up with coffee companies, and lots of different ways that it's working. But it's really incredible to see how creative folks are getting and the results that they're getting from it, and they're opening themselves to new markets. Because if you're partnering with a CSA and you're a brewery, well, there's probably some cross-pollination there where all of those CSA fans are not your brewery fans yet, and vice versa. So there's opportunity to benefit both brands. And really, this is it's all about increasing that customer loyalty and customer lifetime value. So we need to stop looking at customers as if they're kind of a point in time, and really, how do we achieve the longest lasting, most profitable, most rewarding relationship for the customer with the tools that we have at our disposal. So some of the considerations here are, it's a new experience. It's a shift from the traditional. We're all kind of getting used to the subscription programs. Of course, wine has done these things very effectively for years: allocations, subscriptions, memberships. And now I think it's beer and other craft beverages opportunities to kind of take a nod from things that have worked well in other industries, and now make them more oriented around the way that we want our brands represented. So so there's few benchmarks around the subscription attrition, meaning like once you have people subscribing, it's like a technology company at that point where you have so many subscribers, and then month to month people are gonna cancel their subscriptions, but that's part of it. So it's a new business model. It has its advantages, but it also has some things that you need to be some considerations that'll be new, looking at your business through a different lens. It's additional effort, coordination, and technology, but everything is. So while there are considerations, there's also a big opportunity here. So, and this is a brewery. The illustration that I have here, or the examples here, is a brewery that we have in the UK as well, and you can see that it's a brewer's box that's curated, and then also the ability to kind of build your own. You can sign up for a subscription for all of these. So I found this article that I thought was really interesting. It was really talking about subscription services and why people opt in for these things. And it's cool because I think this is in direct alignment with what we see as we're consulting and working with breweries. But it's, you're going to do subscriptions for a couple of different reasons. The 32% reason is that you want a replenishment of some commodity. So these would be your Amazon subscriptions, your Dollar Shave Clubs, where you're going to get a razor or vitamins every month. So that's really more of a commodity offering. We've got my wife and I have it set up for dog food and other things that we use on a regular basis, where we know Amazon can deliver that stuff effectively, and we're not going to be hauling a 50-pound bag of dog food through the grocery store. The other two segments here, so subscribe for curation and subscribe for access. Well, those are things that we're really talking about here. So the curation kind of goes back to the curated box that people get excited about. So, the primary categories here are food, so that kind of fits in beauty, but yeah, food fits into the market segment that we're talking about here. And then, you can receive a curated selection with different items, varying levels of consumer decision-making required. So, that can be customized. Maybe there's sometimes they get to pick. Maybe they have a narrowed down selection of things. Maybe it's just a surprise every month. And then the bottom one here, 13%, is subscribe for access. And that's really what we're talking about, these curated experiences, the membership experiences, these VIP experiences. All of them are, it's one of the clubs that you have available in your golf bag. And, I would encourage you to use all of them. That's meaningful for you. And, sure, you can go out and play a round of golf with just a 7-iron, which can be fun. But, you're not gonna shoot the same score if you use the whole bag. And I think really that's the opportunity with direct consumer, is that, it's not a one size fits all. But there's lots of different tools and levers and ways that programs can be curated to benefit your consumers and your end goal. So, one of the stats that jumped out to me is by 2023, they're projecting that 75% of direct consumer retailers will offer subscriptions. I would say that I would absolutely wholeheartedly believe that. And I think, look at brands like Nike that started off as apparel companies that they weren't technology, but they've embraced technology to create these amazing direct consumer experiences. You can sign up for subscriptions to have, a new pair of shoes delivered to your kid every month or every quarter. You can get on their online store. You can pick out your shoes. You can pick the color. You can put your name on it, and it's going to show up in the next, few days. And they're absolutely killing it. They're dominating. It's a $42 billion company. And probably this year, it looks like they're going to be around $20 billion in online sales. So just to encourage you that, I know that most breweries are not technology companies, but by embracing technology, just like Nike, it gives us that opportunity. And what we see here with Mondo is this is a customer, once again, in the UK. And what they're doing is they're selling a $75 or 75 pounds per year subscription. And this is more kind of like the Amazon Prime model, where they're going to give you free shipping on your orders for 12 months, certain discounts, options to certain releases, certain experiences. But this is a great program, and something that we were excited to help them develop. So, all right. So best practices here, guys, and we'll wrap up with these. But own your web presence. The whole reason here is, guys, there's one place online where you have complete control. That's your website, and you need to make sure that everybody gets there and knows what their options are to participate with your brand. Maybe it's driving traffic to the tap room. Maybe it's events that you're having. Maybe you want people to learn about your beer, or maybe you want them to buy something. So make those options easy. And that's really number two. So make sure that, count the number of clicks it takes for somebody to get from your website into the store and check out. You want that to be as clean, as simple as possible. Any friction in that experience is going to lead to lost revenue. So it's really important you've got that dialed and that it's on brand and you own it. Link product discovery with purchase opportunities. So right here, as an example, Little Victories is a great beer. And as you're exploring that on the website and learning everything about it, well, why not put an option there to buy this beer, or point somebody with a beer finder to where they can find it at a retail account. So it's, those shouldn't be separate experiences. If I read something and I'm inspired to buy it, I should have that opportunity right there. Product bundles are another great thing. It's a way to say, hey, give you different curated options, or maybe we want to bundle certain beers, or we want to have merchandise with beers, and we want to have, maybe some of those partner products like the CSA or the coffee shop. Offer experiences. So once again, membership, VIP, exclusive access, members only, maybe brew days, things like that. All kinds of cool examples out there. And don't be limited by creativity. And if you're limited by creativity, give us a call. We'll walk you through our process and help you kind of plan the right program. Offer curated products. Offer subscriptions. Absolutely. Focus on the customer experience. So think about the best buying experiences that you have. Think about the loyalty you feel for those brands and emulate that. Want that same experience for your brand, and work with the folks that can help you make that happen. Be creative, keep it fun. And the last thing, guys, is, and I think we all struggle with this, but don't be afraid to ask for help. There's no need to recreate the wheel here. There's been lots of tough learning, bumps and bruises along the way. Nobody's got it all figured out yet, but certainly let the bumps and bruises and sprained ankles that the other people have gone through allow you to start off at step 5 as opposed to step 0, thinking you gotta, or step 1 that you gotta figure out everything on your own. So, okay, so from there, guys, just going to wrap up. And this is just a reminder that if anybody is interested in learning more about direct consumer shipping and any of the compliance associated with it, what we're going to be doing is participating in a webinar May 5th at 11 p.m. Eastern with Sovo Ship Compliant and Craftpeak. And this will be a great interview that we'll do with the lead counsel there. I'll get the ability to ask him all of the questions, or all the common questions that we get, about shipping to states and what it takes, and all the things that you'll need to know there. So if you're interested in that, please reach out. We'll make sure that you get registered for that event, but that's happening on May 5th. And then, guys, just to wrap up here with 1 minute to go. Again, my name is John Kelley. You can reach me. Please send any questions my way at john@craftpeak.com. If you're interested in learning more about us, I haven't had the opportunity to update our website, or we as a team haven't done it in a while, but there's plenty of information out there and lots of resources where we often get asked to present on topics of direct-to-consumer shipping and other direct-to-consumer strategies. So we have a lot of that information on the website for you as well. But if we can be helpful at all, please reach out to us. We can also be reached at hello@craftpeak.com. Okay, so guys, I'm going to wrap up there, and I'm checking back over here. Doesn't look like we have had too many questions, but if you're like me, you're probably going to watch this on video recording after you get done with the day. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. If there's additional questions for me, or if there's additional information that I can be helpful with, please don't hesitate to ask. And you guys enjoy the rest of your conference. And Andrew, thank you for the opportunity, and well done on another virtual CBP.